This is my updated prediction for Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury. I uploaded my original prediction to my Patreon page on January 11th, which you can see on screen here. I had planned to upload it to YouTube as well on Fight Week in February, but obviously Fury pulled out and the fight got pushed back. And my thoughts on the fight have changed since anyway. But if you still want to listen to this original prediction, then sign up to my Patreon page, because what you're about to hear in this video is my updated prediction, my new prediction, which is different to my original one. I don't see the fight going the way I did back in January. Anyway, let's get into my updated prediction. Ever since Usyk beat Joshua, Tyson Fury's been giving off distress signals about fighting him. And those distress signals have ramped up even further ever since this fight got signed. He's made numerous attempts to unsettle Usyk, none of which have worked. He's tried to psych himself up with affirmations. He had that bizarre little loving press conference in Morecambe a few weeks ago where he was reeling off 1,000 reasons why he should win the fight. It sounded like he was trying to convince himself more than anyone else. He said he's got a secret weapon on board now, aka his dad John. He's posted 1 million body transformation pictures on social media and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, Oleksandr Usyk has just been smiling and training. No hype talk, no random little press conferences, no gimmicks, just smiling and training. He looks far more comfortable and self-assured than Tyson Fury does. Far more. The reason for Tyson Fury's behavior, in my view, is because his body isn't performing the way it used to in the gym, and that's making him anxious. I don't think a prime Tyson Fury would be putting in all this effort to try and convince people, and convince himself, that he's back to his best. I think a prime Tyson Fury would have just kept his head down until fight week. Now, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Fury here, in case he loses. Not at all. It's just the reality that Tyson Fury has a long history of abusing his body and piling on weight in between fights, and that eventually catches up with you. It nearly caught up with him in the Ngannou fight. Alan Babbage spoke about sparring Tyson Fury about 18 months ago, and he said that Fury's body was falling apart in the gym. So I don't buy this idea that Tyson Fury's in the best shape of his life. I think that's absolute nonsense. I'm sure he'll be in much better shape aesthetically than he was against Ngannou, without a shadow of a doubt. You can already see it. But he won't be a career lightest or anything like that. That's all hype. If Fury was in his prime, I'd see this fight going a bit differently. I mean, Usyk is 37 years old after all, right? He's no spring chicken. But he's looked after his body so much better than Tyson Fury has. So here's how I see it playing out now. Fury, being a very fiery character, and this being a very emotional occasion for him, will be sharp in the early rounds. That emotion and the adrenaline will give him extra sharpness. But since he's unsure about his body, he'll try the path of least resistance first. The strategy which requires the least amount of energy to implement, and that will be to keep the fight at long range and use his jab. He'll try and fiddle about for the first couple rounds, move his feet, and try to be awkward and make himself difficult to hit. Showboating and what have you. And of course the commentators will be jumping up and down with glee, telling us that Fury's dominating the fight, even though neither fighter is really landing anything. But then the adrenaline in Fury's system will start to wear off after 3 or 4 rounds, and Usyk will start to read his feints and time him with shots. Oleksandr Usyk will find his groove and start to outmaneuver and outwork Tyson Fury for several rounds in succession. The momentum will swing firmly in Usyk's favor. There will then be a crisis moment for Tyson Fury somewhere around the 8th, where he either suffers a knockdown, gets cut, or simply realizes that the fight isn't going his way. At which point, he will change strategy completely, become very aggressive, and try to drag Usyk into a dogfight. There may well be some rough stuff from Tyson Fury, and he could get several warnings and perhaps even lose points. Fury will have lost his shape by this stage, and he'll be looking quite crude, getting tagged by Usyk as he tries to wade in with big shots. Now, in my original prediction, I said that Tyson Fury would get to Usyk in the final third of the fight. I said he'd claw back the deficit and either stop Usyk late or win a decision. But upon further reflection, I've changed my mind. I don't think Fury will stop Usyk at all, not unless the referee lets him get away with a ton of fouling. Now look, it's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen, but we have to consider the fact that in over 300 amateur fights, 6 WSB fights, and 21 pro fights, no one has ever stopped Oleksandr Usyk before. And he's fought loads of big guys and big punchers at elite level as well. Furthermore, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury have had 5 common opponents prior to Usyk. And of those common opponents, Joshua has stopped all 5 of them, but Tyson Fury has only stopped 1 of them. And Usyk, of course, is far more skilled than all of those opponents. So what are the odds that Fury will suddenly break this trend and stop a guy who AJ couldn't come close to stopping in 2 fights? Based on previous form, it seems highly improbable. So I think Oleksandr Usyk will withstand the late effort from Tyson Fury, and it will go to the scorecards. And if the judges are fair, I think Oleksandr Usyk will get the decision. But on that note, we do have to bear in mind that the entire boxing industry is absolutely desperate for a Tyson Fury win here. All the big TV companies, virtually all of the boxing media, all of the coaches who are friendly with or connected to the Fury camp and Spencer Brown, the 2 main promoters who work with the Saudis, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, even Turki Al-Sheikh said that Tyson Fury is his favorite fighter. All the big players in the boxing industry are pulling for a Fury win. Why? Because he makes more money for everyone than Oleksandr Usyk does. Simple. Tyson Fury is the far bigger draw here. He's got 2 massive TV deals, one with ESPN and one with TNT Sports. He's a big name in the UK and in America. Everyone involved in this undisputed fight, including DAZN, knows that a Fury win means an absolutely gigantic pay-per-view against Anthony Joshua right afterwards. Ideally, they'd want to forego an Usyk rematch, pay him step aside or whatever, and go straight into the AJ fight. It would be one of the highest grossing fights in boxing history. All of the parties involved would be like pigs at the trough. It would be an absolutely colossal cash bonanza. Oleksandr Usyk is standing in the way of all that. Usyk doesn't have a major network behind him. He's not signed to a major promoter. So this fight is not just Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury. This is really Oleksandr Usyk versus Tyson Fury and the entire boxing industry. A lot of the public want Usyk to win, yes, don't get me wrong, but the industry does not. In scenarios like this, the B side, as it were, has to either knock the guy out or absolutely dominate him from start to finish in order to get the win. Whereas the A side only needs to be competitive to get a decision. He doesn't have to dominate at all. We see it damn near every week. In close fights, the decision nearly always goes to the A side. Will that also be the case here? Does Oleksandr Usyk need to completely dominate and batter Tyson Fury from start to finish to get a decision? If there's a lot of swing rounds in this fight, rounds which genuinely could have gone either way, will the judges divide them up evenly between the 2 fighters, which would seem like the fair thing to do? Or will they give most of them, if not all of them, to Tyson Fury? Usyk, of course, has managed to win decisions as the away fighter in other guys' backyards many times in the past, including against AJ. For this reason, Team Usyk don't seem very concerned. They say it's in God's hands and God has looked after Usyk up to this point, so they trust him to do the same here. But of course, in most of Usyk's away from home wins, he was so dominant that he made it virtually impossible for the judges to pull any funny business. With that being said, 25 years ago, in the first Lewis-Holyfield fight, Lewis totally outboxed Holyfield from start to finish, but the judges only gave him a draw, which was a massive scandal at the time. Would the judges try that here with Usyk Fury? Will they try and find a way to rob Usyk of victory? If it's a close fight, it makes it much easier for them to give Fury the decision, forego the rematch, and move straight on to AJ. But if Usyk dominates, they wouldn't be able to do that because of the public backlash. So they may want a consolation prize in that scenario for missing out on the AJ fight, which of course would be the Usyk-Fury rematch. It would be much bigger than the first fight because of the controversial decision. Controversy sells, right? And what do you think the commentators will be doing in this fight? Are they going to give equal attention to what both guys are landing? Or are they going to hyper-focus on what Fury's landing in an attempt to skew public perception? Commentators can have a very powerful effect on what the public think they're seeing. This is why I always encourage people to score fights with the sound turned off. Now, hopefully it won't come to any of this. Hopefully the judges are totally impartial and score the fight fairly, regardless of any industry pressure to do otherwise. We don't want to be sitting here on Sunday morning saying, Mauricio Sulaiman was right, we did need 5 judges after all. And I don't think we will be, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying that Tyson Fury can't win legitimately here. I'm not saying that he definitely needs help from the judges to get a decision. Again, I actually picked him to win in my original prediction back in January. And this is heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. I've seen some disingenuous Fury fanboys with big platforms online claiming that people like me are saying that Tyson Fury cannot win this fight on points and that he can only win by knockout. And that's not what I'm saying at all. I've never said that. What I said was Tyson Fury can't outbox Oleksandr Usyk. But you don't have to outbox someone to win a decision over them. You do realize that, don't you? Joe Frazier didn't outbox Muhammad Ali in their first fight, did he? No, he bullied him and outworked him and got a decision that way. Now, Tyson Fury might be able to steal a couple of early rounds against Usyk, fiddling about on the back foot, but outboxing him over the entire 12-round distance? No. After this fight, people are going to be sitting around dumbfounded, scratching their heads, wondering why Tyson Fury couldn't school Oleksandr Usyk. They'll be saying, oh, well, he must have been injured or something. No. Oleksandr Usyk is faster, he's got much better coordination, he's much more accurate, he's got much better balance, and he's got better defense as well. It's glaringly obvious. Fury couldn't even outbox Steve Cunningham over a decade ago, but you think he's going to outbox Oleksandr Usyk now? Come on. Fury's best bet is to try and impose himself on Usyk, not to try and finesse him. But even in that scenario, all things being fair, I can't ignore recent form. And Tyson Fury looked absolutely awful against Francis Ngannou. Just terrible against an absolute novice. I can't get that out of my head. Now, people say that he looked terrible against Otto Wallin as well, but then had a career-best performance against Deontay Wilder in his next fight. Well, let me tell you something. I just watched the Otto Wallin fight again the other day, and Tyson Fury looked like $1 million in that fight compared to how he looked against Ngannou. I'm not even slightly exaggerating. Go watch those two fights back. The Ngannou fight was the worst version of Tyson Fury that I have ever seen. If he turns up in the kind of form he was in against Otto Wallin, that would actually be a massive improvement. Meanwhile, Oleksandr Usyk did have that little blip against Dubois, but other than that, he dominated the fight and got the stoppage against a much better boxer than Francis Ngannou. People say Usyk is vulnerable to the body, but exploiting that is easier said than done. Plenty of people have hit Usyk to the body throughout his career, and it didn't work, including AJ, who's a much bigger puncher than Tyson Fury. Even Daniel Dubois continued to target Usyk's body after he got up, but he couldn't find the sweet spot again. Is Tyson Fury going to find it? I don't see it. I don't think Fury's that accurate. So yeah, as long as the judging's fair and the referee's fair, then I see Oleksandr Usyk winning a decision here over Tyson Fury. Give me your feedback in the comment section below.